Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening from wherever you're watching or listening. My name is Caleb Glick. I'm a lawyer here in the great state of Texas with the Calhoun School of Law to bring you a lot of information plenty of bad folks would rather you not have. Today, ladies and gentlemen, we'll provide another installation into our Anti-Federalist Papers series going on number 59. So if you haven't gone back and watched 1 through 58, I would highly encourage you to do so because understanding the Anti-Federalist Papers in addition to the Federalist Papers will provide you a very well-rounded understanding of the U.S. Constitution, and understanding the U.S. Constitution will be absolutely necessary if you intend to combat any sort of lawfare waged against you, your loved ones, or your hard-earned property. So let's go ahead and jump on over to the Anti-Federalist Papers. The version I'm using is provided by the constitutionalistsociety.com, but there are multiple institutions from which you can get a paper and digital copy of the Anti-Federalist Papers. Go ahead and get both formats. And while you're out there looking, if you haven't done so already, go ahead and get a copy of the Federalist Papers so you can join us in comparing and contrasting the arguments for and against ratifying the U.S. Constitution. Excellent. So number 59, finally getting past the Federal Farmer Anti-Federalist Papers. If you didn't watch those, just like all the preceding ones, go ahead and go watch those because what the Federal Farmer argued in his papers was quite poignant, certainly prevalent. Number 59 is titled, The Danger of Congressional Control of Elections. Alexander Hamilton in Federalist number 59 addresses this same topic from an opposing viewpoint. This is why it's so important to read both the Anti-Federalist Papers and the Federalist Papers so you can really understand the context that these arguments are being made and these refutations are being provided. This essay was written anonymously by Vox Populi and appeared in the Massachusetts Gazette on October 30th, 1787. The reason, we've talked about this a couple times in the preceding Anti-Federalist Paper installments, the reason pseudonyms and aliases were used by the Anti-Federalists was because there was a very real, present threat to their lives. Hamilton said in one of his pennings, I can't remember if it was in the Federalist Papers, but in one of his pennings, he verbatim said, the states are going to comply or they're going to die. They're going to comply with the U.S. Constitution or they're going to die. That threat, that imminent threat, was made very clear and pertinent during the Adams administration, with the Alien and Sedition Acts, with the burning and arrest of certain press stations. There was a very legitimate threat against these Anti-Federalist people, against the dissent. So that's why they used aliases and pseudonyms. He says this, Vox Populi, alias, he says this. I beg leave to J, talking about John Jay, before the candid public the first clause in the 4th section of the first article of the proposed Constitution. Quote, the times, places, and manner of holding elections for senators and representatives shall be prescribed in each state by the legislature thereof, but the Congress may at any time, by law, make or alter such regulations except as to the places of choosing senators. By this clause, the time, place, and manner of choosing representatives is wholly at the disposal of Congress. Why the convention who formed the proposed Constitution wished to invest Congress with such a power, I am by no means capable of saying, or why the good people of this Commonwealth, Massachusetts, should delegate such a power to them is no less hard to determine. But as the subject is open for discussion, I shall make a little free inquiry into the matter. And first, what national advantage is there to be acquired by giving them such a power? The only advantage which I have heard proposed by it is to prevent a partial representation of the several states in Congress. Quote, for if the time, manner, and place were left wholly in the hands of the state legislatures, it is probable they would not make provision by appointing time, manner, and place for an election, in which case there could be no election, and consequently the federal government weakened. But this provision is by no means sufficient to prevent an evil of that nature. For will any reasonable man suppose that when the legislature of any state, who are annually chosen, are so corrupt as to break through that government which they have formed, and refuse to appoint time, place, and manner of choosing representatives, I say, can any person suppose that a state so corrupt would not be full as likely to neglect, or even refuse, to choose representatives at the time and place, and in the manner prescribed by Congress? Fair point. If they're so corrupt to already be doing that, how do you expect them to do the job that is supposedly prescribed by Congress? It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't hold water. Surely they would be as corrupt to reject the prescriptions of Congress. So it could answer no good national purpose on that account, and I have not heard any other national advantage proposed thereby. We will now proceed in the next place to consider why the people of this Commonwealth should vest Congress with such a power. No one proposes that it would be any advantage to the people of this state. Therefore, it must be considered as a matter of indifference, except there is an opportunity for its operating to their disadvantage, in which case I conceive it ought to be disapprobated. Whether there is danger of its operating to the good people's disadvantage shall now be the subject of our inquiry. Supposing Congress should direct that the representatives of this Commonwealth should be chosen all in one town, Boston, for instance, on the first day of March, would not that be a very injurious institution to the good people of this Commonwealth? Would not there be at least 9/10 of the landed interest of this Commonwealth entirely unrepresented? Surely one may reasonably imagine there would. What, then, would be the case if Congress should think proper to direct that the election should be held at the northwest, southwest, or northeast part of the state the last day of March? How many electors would there attend the business? And it is a little remarkable that any gentleman should suppose that Congress could possibly in any measure as good judges of the time, place, and manner of elections as the legislatures of the several respective states. These as objections I could wish to see obviated, and I could wish the public inquiry might extend to a consideration whether or not it would not be more conducive to prevent a partial representation to invest Congress with power to levy such a fine as they might think proper on states not choosing representatives, than by giving them this power of appointing time, manner, and place. It is objected by some that Congress could not lay, or at least could not collect, such a fine of a delinquent state. If that is the case, Congress could not collect any tax they might think proper to levy, nor execute any order whatever. At any time, any state might break through the national compact, dissolve the federal constitution, and set the whole structure afloat on the ocean of chaos. It is, therefore, proposed to the public to consider whether the said clause in the 4th section of the 1st article can answer the only purposes for which it is said to have been provided, or any other which will prove any advantage either to the nation or state. Signed, Vox Populi. So that is all to be said in number 59. Quite the short one today. If you have any questions about what was said in 59, maybe questions about what was said in the preceding papers, or if there's a topic you'd like me to cover in a future lecture, go ahead and post them down in the comments, because the entire purpose of the Calhoun School of Law is to provide you with the necessary skills and information to combat any sort of lawfare waged against you, your loved ones, or your hard-earned property. So please, if you have any questions at all, go ahead and post them down in the comments. Excellent. So my name is Caleb Glick. I'm a lawyer here in the great state of Texas with the Calhoun School of Law to bring you a lot of information that plenty of bad folks would rather you not have. I hope you enjoyed this lecture, and if not, while you're down in the comments, go ahead and let me know how I can do better so I can best serve that purpose of helping you. I hope you'll have a wonderful day, and I'm not sure what the topic for the next lecture is going to be, but I'll do my best to make it as informative and entertaining as this one, if not more so. Regardless of the topic of the next lecture, until I see y'all then, I bid you all farewell.